I never imagined that becoming a babysitter at 18 years old would be anything more than a way to earn some extra money. But as I reflect on my time spent with the children I cared for, I realize that it taught me far more than I ever could have expected. It was a job I thought I'd do for just a few months, but it ended up becoming an experience that shaped me into the woman I am today. When I first started babysitting, I thought I knew what to expect. I'd babysit for a few hours, make sure the kids were fed and entertained, and go home with a little extra cash in my pocket. It seemed simple enough, but the reality was far more complex than I had imagined. The first family I worked for had two kids, a 5-year-old girl named Lily and a 2-year-old boy named Max. I was introduced to them by a close friend, and I remember feeling nervous but excited about the opportunity. At first, everything was great. Lily was a curious, energetic little girl who loved to ask questions, and Max was a bubbly toddler who was just starting to speak in full sentences. They were adorable, and I quickly grew fond of them. But as the days went on, I began to realize that babysitting was not as easy as I had anticipated. The responsibilities felt heavier than I expected. Max started to throw tantrums when he didn't get his way, and Lily, who was normally sweet, started acting out in ways that I wasn't prepared for. One day, Lily refused to listen to me when I asked her to pick up her toys, and Max threw a fit because I couldn't find his favorite toy. I felt overwhelmed. It seemed like no matter how hard I tried, the children were testing my patience in ways I hadn't prepared for. I remember calling my mom after one particularly challenging evening. I was frustrated and unsure of what to do. "They're just kids," she told me. "They're learning how to express themselves, and it's your job to teach them the right way to handle their emotions." That advice hit me hard. I had been treating the situation like a task to complete, like I had to get everything right immediately. But the truth was, parenting and caregiving don't work that way. Children are constantly learning, and it was my job to guide them patiently and compassionately. The lesson here was clear. I needed to have more patience, not just with the children, but with myself. I needed to stop expecting perfection from them and from me. There were moments when I didn't handle a situation as well as I could have, and that was okay. The important thing was learning from those moments and trying again. One of the biggest challenges I faced as a babysitter was understanding the different needs of each child. Lily and Max had very different temperaments and needs, and it took me some time to realize that what worked for one child didn't necessarily work for the other. With Lily, I had to use a calm, reasoning approach. I'd sit down with her, explain things, and encourage her to make better choices. With Max, I had to get creative. He was too young to understand reasoning, so I had to use more hands-on methods to distract him when he became upset, like offering him a toy or singing a silly song. It took time, but I slowly learned to adapt to their individual needs. This taught me an important lesson. Everyone is different, and there is no one-size-fits-all approach to challenges. It's easy to compare ourselves to others, or to expect things to be the same in every situation. But the truth is, every person, child or adult, is unique. We all learn, grow, and respond to things differently. But the most significant lesson I learned as a babysitter came on the day I had to handle an emergency. I had been babysitting for a while when one evening Max tripped while running in the living room, fell, and hit his head on the coffee table. He screamed in pain, and my heart dropped into my stomach. I rushed to his side, checking for any signs of serious injury. His head was swollen, and he was crying uncontrollably. I called his parents immediately and followed the steps they had taught me in case of an emergency. Thankfully, Max was okay. He just had a bump on his head, but that moment shook me. In that instant, I realized just how important it is to stay calm in moments of crisis. I had to trust myself to handle the situation as best I could, even though I was scared. And more than that, I realized how crucial it is to be prepared for unexpected situations, especially when you're responsible for someone else's child. Preparation and calmness in difficult situations are essential. After that incident, I took first aid and CPR classes. I wanted to be as prepared as possible for anything that might happen in the future. I realized that, as a caregiver, I had a responsibility not just to entertain and look after the children's well-being, but also to ensure their safety and security. That experience taught me that being responsible for another person's well-being goes beyond the basics. It involves being ready for anything and acting quickly when needed. The next few months were a journey of growth. As I spent more time with Lily and Max, I started to feel more confident in my role as their babysitter. I learned how to set boundaries and discipline them when necessary, while also fostering a nurturing environment. I found joy in seeing their faces light up when I introduced new games or read them their favorite books. I also saw how my actions influenced their behavior. If I modeled patience, they responded with patience. If I showed understanding, they showed kindness. Being a babysitter wasn't just about teaching the children, it was also about learning from them. Children have this incredible ability to live in the moment, to experience the world with a sense of wonder and curiosity. I saw this every day when Max would marvel at the simplest things, like a bird flying by or a puddle after the rain. Watching them reminded me that there's beauty in the little things, and that sometimes, as adults, we forget to slow down and appreciate the present. There were also moments when I felt frustrated or discouraged. I remember one evening when Lily refused to go to bed, crying for an hour straight. She was overtired, and I was exhausted, but I had to remain calm and gentle. Eventually, she calmed down and fell asleep. In those moments, I realized that patience and persistence are essential, not just in caring for children, but in life in general. There are times when things don't go according to plan, when you feel like giving up, but it's in those moments that we must dig deep and push forward. Being a babysitter also taught me the importance of building trust. The more I worked with Lily and Max, the more we developed a bond. They began to trust me, to rely on me, and I realized that trust is the foundation of any relationship. It's built over time, through consistency, understanding, and love. And trust doesn't just come from saying the right things. It comes from showing up, being reliable, and being present for someone when they need you most. Looking back, I realized that my time as a babysitter was a gift. It challenged me in ways I didn't expect, and it helped me grow in ways I couldn't have imagined. It taught me patience, resilience, and the importance of being adaptable. It reminded me that no matter how tough things get, there's always a lesson to be learned. And more than anything, it taught me that growth comes through service. When we take care of others, we take care of ourselves. We learn about our strengths, our weaknesses, and the power of kindness and patience. Life lesson: every challenge, no matter how difficult, is an opportunity to grow. Whether you're a babysitter or a parent, or you're facing struggles in your personal life, always remember that growth comes from stepping outside of your comfort zone. The moments of struggle will make you stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. And, just as with Lily and Max, sometimes the biggest lessons come from the little moments of care and love you give to others. As time passed, I found myself spending more time with other families, babysitting different children. Each experience was unique, but the lessons remained consistent. With every family I worked with, I learned new things, not just about childcare, but about myself and what kind of person I wanted to be. One of the families I worked with had 3 children: a rambunctious 4-year-old boy named Noah, a quiet 7-year-old girl named Emma, and a shy 2-year-old baby, Leah. Noah was full of energy and loved to run around the house, while Emma loved reading and drawing quietly in the corner. Leah, on the other hand, was still learning to speak and would often only communicate through gestures or pointing at things. The first time I walked into their home, I was nervous. How could I balance the needs of 3 very different children? The first few days were a challenge. Noah's boundless energy seemed never-ending, and I struggled to keep up with him. Emma would retreat into her own little world with her books, and I was unsure how to engage with her. Leah, who was still very much dependent on gestures, made communication more difficult. I felt overwhelmed at times, wondering if I was doing enough for them, especially as a relatively new babysitter. But I reminded myself of the lessons I had learned from Lily and Max. Every child is different, and I needed to be patient and adapt. What I didn't expect was how much these 3 children would teach me about empathy. I had always considered myself a compassionate person, But caring for Noah, Emma, and Leah took that empathy to a whole new level. I had to understand the world from their perspective. I had to realize that Noah wasn't acting out to be difficult. He was just a young child with an excess of energy. Emma wasn't quiet because she was aloof, but because she was an introvert who found comfort in her books. Leah wasn't stubborn. She simply lacked the language skills to communicate as effectively as I could. The more I spent time with them, the more I saw things from their eyes. I began to understand that a child's behavior often stems from unmet needs, emotions they can't fully express, or developmental stages they haven't yet outgrown. Empathy is not just about understanding another person's situation. It's about seeing the world through their lens, adjusting your expectations, and providing a safe space for them to grow and develop. One day, after a particularly challenging afternoon with Noah, I took a moment to step outside for some fresh air. I sat on the front steps of the house and reflected on how frustrated I had been. The house was messy, toys were scattered everywhere, and Noah had ignored every request I made to calm down. But in that moment, I realized that I was expecting too much. He was a child, and it was my job to meet him where he was, not to expect him to act like an adult. This shift in perspective helped me handle situations with more grace. I learned how to set clear boundaries with Noah while still validating his emotions. Instead of telling him to calm down immediately, I started acknowledging his feelings. I can see you're upset. Let's take a few deep breaths together. This small change in approach made a huge difference. Not only did it help Noah calm down faster, but it also strengthened the bond we shared. He learned that I wasn't just there to control him. I was there to listen to him. With Emma, I learned the value of patience and encouragement. At first, she was very quiet around me. She preferred to sit alone, drawing or reading, and I wasn't sure how to connect with her. I respected her need for space, but I also wanted to make sure she knew I was there for her if she wanted to talk. Slowly, I began asking her about the book she read and the drawings she created. I never pushed her to speak more than she was comfortable with, but I showed interest in the things she loved. One afternoon, she finally spoke up and showed me a drawing she had made of our time together. It was a simple sketch of me and her holding hands, surrounded by flowers. That moment showed me that sometimes the best way to connect with someone is to let them be themselves, to give them time to feel comfortable, and to let them express themselves on their own terms. Leah, the youngest, taught me the value of communication and creativity. Because she couldn't yet speak fluently, we had to get creative in finding ways to communicate. I would mimic her sounds, trying to guess what she wanted, and slowly she started to use more words. One day she reached for a book, looked at me and said, "Read?" It was the first word she had said clearly, and I was overjoyed. Sometimes, growth happens in the quietest, most subtle moments. Leah's small milestone reminded me that communication goes beyond words. It's about connection, understanding, and being present with the person in front of you. These moments, big and small, taught me invaluable lessons. I learned that, as a caregiver, I wasn't just there to supervise children or ensure they were entertained. I was there to nurture their development, to support them in their emotional growth, and to help them build their confidence. I was there to model patience, to teach them that it was okay to make mistakes, and that they were worthy of love and care, no matter how they behaved. But the lessons weren't just for the children, they were for me as well. Over time, I found that I was growing in ways I hadn't expected. I had developed a greater sense of patience, a deeper understanding of others, and an appreciation for the small, quiet victories in life. Being a babysitter had taught me how to listen more intently, not just to the children, but to my own feelings as well. It had shown me the importance of self-care, of setting boundaries, and of understanding that it's okay to ask for help when needed. There were also moments when I struggled. Some days I felt like I wasn't doing enough. Some nights I felt exhausted, unsure if I was truly making a difference. But every time I doubted myself, I would remember a moment. The time Noah had smiled when I validated his feelings. The time Emma had finally opened up to me. Or the time Leah had said her first word. These small moments, these signs of growth, reminded me that I was doing something important. that I was making a difference in their lives. I also began to see how important my role was not just in the children's lives, but in the family dynamic as a whole. By giving the parents a break and taking care of their children, I was helping to create a stronger, more balanced family. I began to see babysitting as not just a job, but as an opportunity to contribute to the well-being of others. By the end of my time with this family, I had learned far more than I had ever expected. I had grown in confidence, patience, and empathy. I had learned to communicate more effectively, to approach challenges with a positive mindset, and to be gentle with myself when things didn't go as planned. And most importantly, I had learned that the act of caring for others is one of the most rewarding experiences you can have. It teaches you to be selfless, to put others first, needs before your own, but it also teaches you about the power of kindness, patience, and love. In the end, my time as a babysitter taught me lessons that I carry with me every day. It taught me that we are all constantly growing and evolving, that mistakes are a natural part of life, and that it's okay to take things one step at a time. Whether you're caring for children or navigating your own life, the most important thing is to be patient, to show kindness, and to remember that every experience, no matter how small, has something valuable to teach us. So, to anyone reading this, whether you're a parent, a caregiver, or someone just trying to figure out your next step in life, remember this: growth happens in the most unexpected places, and every challenge is an opportunity for learning and growth. Take it one day at a time, embrace the journey, and know that you're doing your best.